Perfect. Cool. So let's kick it off. We got 22 people here. I think we'll have a bunch more joining, but great to see you all and welcome. Thanks for taking time on your Wednesday morning, evening, afternoon, maybe Thursday morning for some. I don't know. We're kind of all over the world. Before we get started today, and obviously as people are joining in, I want to share some super quick tech notes for everybody on this webinar. So first off, welcome to Zoom. This is actually the same tool that we use to host our virtual retreats. So you're actually getting a little bit of a sneak peek. Your mics are on mute and should be for the call, just so we don't have too many people speaking over each other. I would also say keep your video off or turn it on if you want. Up to you, totally cool. There's a sweet little thing in your top right corner that says gallery view. If you click that, you kind of get to see everybody. Or if you keep it off, you just get to see whoever's talking, which is me right now. Hello. However, the chat box is open. So you'll see a little chat button on your bottom screen. We're definitely going to be using that on this call. It's super interactive and we'll have a lot of time for Q&A at the end. So just to make sure you all know how to use it and know where it is, everybody chime in and say hello and where you're calling in from. Let's see if that stacks up. You may have a couple people in the same spot.
This is Laurel from Tucson, Arizona.
Hey, Laurel. Nice to meet you. We're going to do that in the chat box. So,
oh, gosh, sorry.
But hey, nice to hear from you. We do that just to have everybody on mute, just so we don't talk over each other, because we've got a lot of people on the call, probably 30, 35, maybe 40 people. So if everybody tries to chime in, it might be a little chaotic. So yeah, just drop your name in the chat, where you're from, what you're drinking, maybe wine, maybe tea, whatever you want. I just have water, a little bit boring today. So cool. Vermont, Georgia, Toronto, UK, Mexico, London, Buenos Aires, Madrid, Montevideo. Super global crew. I expect nothing less from a group of unsettlers. We have an incredibly diverse community. Nick from Nairobi, awesome. I lived in Nairobi for a long time. Beautiful place. So now that we're all kind of familiar with ourselves, or at least getting popped in chat, this call is going to be maybe 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, maybe an hour if you really get into it. It's up to you. Feel free to jump off at any time if you've got a jet. Maybe say goodbye to us in the chat so we can say goodbye. So yeah, let's continue. I'm going to go through the agenda in a minute, but first I want to do some introductions. So who are we? My name is Jonathan Kalin. I am co-founder of Unsettled and one of the facilitators of our Lifestyle Incubator program. I'm currently in France, taking a sort of holiday, not quite holiday, sort of working holiday of skiing and working, which is my favorite. My co-founder Michael is here. Michael, say hello.
Hey everyone, this is Michael Youngblood, co-founder at Unsettled. Jonathan and I are both also co-facilitators in our Lifestyle Incubator. I am calling in from Ubud, Bali, where we run many of our retreats, and I'll speak more throughout the call.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. And we also have 3 alumni joining us from our first Lifestyle Incubator program who graduated this Sunday. So give them a high five for making it through. We have Tripti Agarwal, who's calling us in from the Netherlands. Wave hi, Tripti, so we can see you. There we go. Awesome. Hey, Tripti. We've got Chrissy Holzinger from Austria. Chrissy, you there? There she is. Awesome. And we've got Roxana Balsac, who's also in France. Say hello. There we go. Cool. So these are 3 of the 20-something alumni that we had in our first Lifestyle Incubator that ended, and they're going to share a bit about their experience, their perspective on how it went, answer some of the questions that you guys have, and take it from there. So cool. The agenda today, quick backstory. We're just going to share a little bit on Unsettled for those who may not be super familiar with us. We'll do a brief overview of the Lifestyle Incubator and the virtual retreat format, because it is something quite different, quite unique. And so we'll just touch a little bit on that, and then we'll really dive into our alumni Q&A, because obviously there's nobody better to speak about the experience than our participants. So we're going to open up the floor to them in a little bit of a Q&A format. And then after that, we're going to do an open Q&A where you guys are all going to type in some questions in the chat. And we, Michael, myself, alumni, will dig in and answer them. So as we're going along, you questions, write them down in a notebook and save them for the end. And with that, I think we're ready to roll. You good, Michael?
I'm good. Let's roll.
Cool. Pass it off to you for a little bit of a backstory on Unsettled. How did we get here?
Yeah, awesome. We just want to take a moment to share who we are, what Unsettled is, how this all got started, and eventually how it led to the first Lifestyle Incubator, which just wrapped up. You know, Jonathan and I founded Unsettled 5 years ago. And, you know, we come from backgrounds of our careers and lifestyles where we have very much traveled all around the world. In many ways, we've put our careers and lifestyles right there together to make sure we're living what we do and we're doing what we live. And 5 years ago, we organized a sailing trip. And we had 35 people from 15 or 16 countries join us. And this was just us going out there for fun. We went sailing in the Caribbean. And we had one of the best weeks of our lives. We had a really diverse group of people with us. We spent a week unplugged, you know, sailing the high seas in the Caribbean, enjoying life, and talking a lot about life. You know, the main thing we walked away with from that trip was just how much we talked about life, our careers, where we want to be in 5 years, the trajectories that we were all on. And we really came out of that one sailing trip asking ourselves one question, which was, how can we design our lives for more meaningful experiences, you know, for more meaning, for more growth, for more adventure. And we decided to just dive right into that by running experiences. And so since that fortuitous trip 5 years ago, we have been running experiences nonstop. Unsettled has ran almost 100 retreats in 20 locations around the world. We've had 2,000 people from 80 countries join us on those retreats. And those retreats really are a way for us to live this lifestyle that we were thinking about, that we were diving deep into on that sailing trip. And we still do those. So we've ran trips, you know, here where I am in Bali, probably 40, 50, 60, 70 trips here, lots and lots of trips in Bali, but also Buenos Aires, Cape Town, and Europe, you know, really all over the world, having taken people through an experience that really is about stepping into and living this lifestyle firsthand. And so that's kind of what led us to this trip. After we ran so many of these, we had people just diving into the types of workshops we do on these retreats. And we run all types of workshops on our retreats, thinking about our lifestyle, thinking about our career. How can we live this lifestyle more than just 1 month, because our retreats are typically 1 month at a time. And after we heard these questions, after we've seen 2,000 people go through these retreats, you know, there was just really one conclusion to reach. There's more and more people who want to think deeply about their lives, who want to think about, you know, where do I want to be in 3 years, 5 years from now? And ultimately, we realized it was a design question that we were solving for. That is, can we design for our lives? Can we take tools and processes from design and apply them into our lives to think about really intentionally where we're headed in our lives to live the lifestyle that we're really meant to be living? Thinking about our careers that enable that lifestyle. And so we really broke it down into a series of design workshops. And that's kind of what led us to putting together this really unique format for the Lifestyle Incubator. So in short, it's been quite a journey. It has been quite a process. And that's kind of what led us to this. John, I'm going to hand it back to you for a minute. See if you want to add anything before maybe we give a bit more of an overview for the actual Lifestyle Incubator.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. No, I think you summed it up pretty well. I mean, 5 years in 4 minutes is quite the whirlwind. But you nailed it. I think, you know, we found a lot of people asking the question of, you know, how do I have this experience without having to take a month of my life and fly all the way to Bali, go to Buenos Aires? And, you know, to be honest, it was a big experiment. We said, can we design something that really is effective, that really does build community, that really does curate conversations in the way that happens in person? And I think our alumni will tell you how that actually went. We'll let them speak to that. We think it went really well and actually exceeded our kind of wildest expectations and how it went. But they'll share more on that. So No, I think that's it, Michael. Maybe want to just run through a little bit of the structure, kind of how we set it up and how we've done it, and then we can dive into maybe more of a typical week and give people a little more deep dive, and then open it up to the alumni.
Yeah, awesome. So coming out of an organization that runs these in-person experiences that really focus on living this lifestyle, and most of those are designed in 30 days. And so when when I'm talking about we run retreats in Bali, we're there for 30 days at a time. Right? There's a lot of unique things that you can do in 30 days around breaking habits, building habits, asking big questions, especially when you're in a community of peers who are looking to live this lifestyle as well. And the big questions that they really boil down to one big question, that is, what's next for me? And we found ourselves constantly asking this question. We found our team members at Unsettled asking this, and we found our participants from these 2,000 participants we've mentioned who've gone on trips. Really, it comes down to what's next for me. And so that's the question we began to use as a design framework of how can we work together in a community where we don't have to travel all around the world to dive deep into this, to understand how might you answer that question, what's next for me, in terms of your own values, where you want to be, how you work, and how that might show up in a plan to get to that point where you're really connected, your unique value in the world to the work that you're doing. And so we really broke it down, that what's next for me question, into a series of workshops and live sessions that we do, and we'll break that down for just a minute. So what does an actual lifestyle incubator look like for Unsettled? We just finished our first one, and in that first one we ran 15 hours of live workshops. So we come together twice a week here on Zoom, as Jonathan said, and we're leading some sort of workshop. The workshops typically an hour and a half. A lot of them are open dialogue where Jonathan, myself, our colleague Lala might introduce a framework, and then we're working through it for an hour and a half. So we're not lecturing for the whole time. We're introducing a framework, we're showing visuals on it, and then we're putting people into breakout groups. We're diving into smaller groups, 2 or 3 people chatting about this framework, answering questions, and really reflecting on all these big questions that we're asking within these frameworks. So we do these live workshops twice a week. We do all types of offline exercises where we're sending out worksheets, we're sending out follow-ups on these frameworks, and assignments that really support this journey that we're on over this 30 days in this lifestyle incubator. We hold open office hours in the incubator, meaning we really just kind of create a gray space where we can come together and just have an open dialogue. Where are you at? Where are you being challenged? Are you hitting a roadblock? That's great news. We love roadblocks. It probably means you're up against some sort of friction in your life, and we can really work through that friction together. So we run about 8 of those office hours throughout the month. And then also we do these one-on-one sessions where Jonathan, myself, Lala, the co-facilitator I mentioned, we dive in on one-on-one calls with anybody who wants to hop in there. So I talked with just about everybody this past month, sometimes a couple of times, and it just gives us a space to come together with no expectation, no judgment, just to really dive into where you're at, what you're building. Can we work through the frictions and those roadblocks you're coming up against? And there's a lot of value in that too. And then the last thing we really do, and then maybe back to John to summarize or to add to, is there's a community. Like, you look around this call, right? There's 30 people from all over the world here who are asking themselves these questions, who are processing this in their own lives. And to come together in this community, we use Slack, which many of y'all are probably familiar with. If not, it's a messaging platform. That's live 24/7. You can get in there, you can ask questions, you can get feedback on your questions. You can schedule your own one-on-one with another community member, with another participant. Say, hey, is anybody thinking about doing this in their career? Maybe going freelance. Will you have a brainstorm with me? And so there's a lot of value that comes out of that community as well. So in short, we're doing a very good mix of variety. Unsettled, Jonathan, myself, and Lala, we're creating that structure and guiding it as we go with these frameworks. And then really the communities plugging and playing and learning together, really driving that peer-to-peer learning. And that's truly what Unsettled has always been about, this peer-to-peer coming together within a community and learning and brainstorming and sharing where you're at, just like that original sailing trip we started 5 years ago. John, would you recap it differently or
Nope.
add to it?
Nailed it. Awesome. Thanks. No, actually, I was doing some research a little bit earlier today, and I on the community front, which I think is something really important for us and important part of this process, because you can take a digital online course and you're just watching a video 2 times a day or for an hour a day, or you can read a book, but that highly interactive element, I think is something that does differentiate what we do. I looked and I found that in our last program, we had over 4,000 messages just in our public Slack channels, and that doesn't include private messages or participants chatting with each other. I also roughly counted at least 50 one-on-one video chats between participants themselves, like us having nothing to do with them, where they were kind of looking to connect, share, as Michael said, work through some issues. So super interactive and really fun. And I think at the end of the day, like, we're not sitting out there and promising to, give you the green light to make $1 million or to become a freelancer, or, we don't make these bold promises. We just say this is, very much just a no bullshit approach to taking next steps and thinking about how to be intentional and doing it with a great community of people. So with that, I do want to pass it on to our community. So obviously Michael and I have talked more than enough, and I'd love to turn it over to our alumni. So again, it's just some context. We had 23 people from at least 14 countries on our first program, and Chrissy, Tripti, and Roxana have volunteered to share their stories. Just a note, obviously everybody's experience is personal and super unique based on their own journey, where they're at in life, what they're looking to do. I think, between these 3 individuals, they both have very different life stories and very different career tracks and different things they've worked on. So I think it's a really fun spread, and I'm really happy to hand it over to them. So I'm going to pop a first question, and I'm going to go around. And so maybe we'll start with, I'm going to pick on Tripti to start first, and then Roxana, and then Chrissy. I'd love for you guys to just share the story of how you ended up joining the incubator. Like, what have the past few months or even years looked like that kind of made you feel like this was a step that you wanted to take? So Tripti, I'll popcorn to you first.
All right. Thanks, Jonathan, for the question. Before I answer the question, guys, I want to first congratulate yourself for taking this first step to be on this call, because that makes you curious. And that curiosity is sort of arising out of your desire to work on something. It has brought you here. So congratulate yourself on that. Joining in from all parts of the world might not have been easy for some of you. Early morning, late nights. So big applause. Coming to my story, I am working in Netherlands. For my living, I work with a multinational, and for my life, I'm a social entrepreneur. If I have to look at my journey, it's been most of the times that I have done in my life, I don't have regrets, and it is one of the other choices that I've picked up. Early this year, I was offered a few roles and few promotions, which so far until now, I have managed to keep them at bay. But since Heineken is a company which focuses really on individual development, I have been asked this question time and again. Hey, Tripti, why have you actively avoided in all your career of 10 years or so going up the ladders? And I know that's true. I've always moved laterally. And there is a reason behind it. And with the added pressure and a lot of things, and I do not like to do something which I have not created or which I have not taken a plunge on. So that has been most of my force behind finding the answers. And to be honest, it's been since February I was struggling, and I have used all the life tools, all the things that I was working at. And I think by the end of July, I was really like stuck somewhere. I was not making a progress. I would still say had or have, still working on it. I had this perfect vision of how my week should look like in so many years to come. And I need to design that week. What does that look like? What are the elements to that? I was just working. I was so focused on doing. I mean, Michael knows about it. I have a fancy ass tracker, which is so focused on creating those micro habits. But again, it was not hitting the nail. I had pulled in so much pressure on myself that come September, I was like, okay, I'm done with it. I need to take a break. Need to take a break. I think by the end of October, I was quite ready to pick on the process. I had in between, when you take a break, you also answer the questions that has been there and they come to the surface. And I think I was looking at the tools again. And I was looking, okay, let me just go online. And then that's when I came across Unsettled. And I was like, shit, this thing, I don't have the time, mind space, and also at this moment, money to go on a retreat. Shit, these kinds of programs should really happen virtually. You know, there's so much to be had. And as if the universe was listening, I think within 3 days, I found, because through my cookies, within 3 days, I was like, okay, wow. And I reached out to Taylor and she tells me, hey, there is, you are already in the wait list. So I was again bummed, okay, not happening. And I cannot do in January. So let's see. But long story short, I am here, I have done it. And this is how I ended up. And I don't have an inch of regret or like I have wasted my time. I'm so grateful to what I've found in the last month. It has given me so much, but yeah, happy to discuss on that. And I hope I have answered your question in a lot of details, but please connect to me if you want to. Happy to support you there. Thanks, Jonathan. And I go on mute.
Thanks, Chipti. Really, really appreciate that. Roxana, kick it over to you. What's your story?
Thank you both. Hi, everyone. It's great to see you all here. So I come from a 8 to 9 year career in corporate world. I think all of my opportunities have sort of organically come about through different people and just circumstances that have led me from one role to another. And this year especially, it was getting to a point where I was feeling misaligned with not necessarily the work that I was doing, but who I'm doing it for and the overall objectives of the company that I'm working for. And I wanted to become more proactive as opposed to reactive in how I've been making certain decisions along my career, basically. I've been reading countless, self-help books, business books, and I think that has been a journey of around 2 years. I contemplated pursuing an MBA program. I applied to a number of programs. I got rejected from all of them, which ended up being quite the blessing, actually. And a few months ago, I made a commitment that I was going to quit my job at some point next year. But you know, having no idea really what I was going to do next. So when the Unsettled Lifestyle Incubator came about, I got really excited because I think it's the type of life decision that I wanted to brainstorm with people who are very different from me and from my background. So for me, the biggest appeal was to go about doing some of these exercises and these brainstormings, not just sort of in my head and on my own, but actually challenging a little bit of how I was looking at mature and my skill sets and where I could actually deploy everything that I've gained throughout my career. And that was the biggest gain that I took from the month. And I'm sure we'll get into that in a bit more detail later on. But yes, that's my story.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Roxana. Hey, just over the mountains, over to you. How did you get here?
Yeah. Hello from Austria. From the other side of the mountains, the Alps. I actually, I'm a serial entrepreneur since the last 10 years. And this year, my companies grew much faster than I could actually handle employing people and handling my tools, my strategies, and the visions that I had for my companies. I wanted to go on an unsettled trip, but due to several reasons, for example, you know, like having employees and being responsible for so many people, I couldn't take off more than 2 weeks. So I was planning already for 2020 to go, and then the word virtual popped on out in my mailbox. And actually that was the perfect momentum for me to reflect and to restructure with some guidance and guidelines. And like Roxy said, I totally share that view as well, to get feedback from others and restructure on how my plan could be in terms of how to proceed with the new companies that I want to found, or at least with how to proceed with the companies I'm running right now. And that was, for me, the perfect time to actually join the incubator while, like handling my companies over here, or traveling all over Austria, because to me it was easy to join the several meetings and exercises on the train even, and therefore I'm happy to exchange the topics that drove me, but generally that was the point why I joined the incubator program.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Chrissy. Cool. So we're going to move forward with opening up some questions. While you guys start putting in your questions in the chat, so click that little chat button and start throwing in some questions there. We probably won't get to all of them, but we are going to pick some, and hopefully we'll get to most of them if we can. As you guys are putting them in there, I just want to ask our alumni, like, what is one thing that either surprised you or challenged you during the program that really stands out? And we'll go through that as people are dropping in some other questions. Popcorn to whichever one of you wants to take it first. You're familiar with the popcorn format, so.
Roxy, why don't you go first?
Sure. So as I said, I went into it really trying to figure out how I was going to go about searching for my next professional opportunity. And one of the things that I realized, and I have to say this all came through, especially the one-on-one conversations that I scheduled throughout the program, is that one, it's going to take me, I think, more time than what I had anticipated. So I need to become a little more creative in how I generate some income streams in the short term. And I also finished with a set of key areas that I know I want to focus on for that search, which in itself for me is the biggest value one of the biggest values that I got from the month, because it's given me clarity and a sort of a plan in a way to know that I'm focusing the next few months on the right things, and knowing that I've done so in a way that I'm looking at my career fully integrated in the lifestyle that I am creating, and not vice versa, meaning not having the career and then structuring my entire life around that. So it's like my life has become the main driver, and then the career is sort of meeting that, my values and how I want to spend my time. So it was a very holistic approach to the search. I have to say the biggest challenge is that it was a lot of tough self-reflection, and being very honest with yourself, and having other people sort of hold you accountable was really, really important throughout the journey. Chrissy, Trip, do you guys want to add anything else?
Thanks, Roxy. What surprised me the most was the fact that we became a group very fast and very easily, although we have been working only virtual, like Zoom style, like we do like here. The other thing that surprised me a lot is the openness and the niceness, getting feedback from so many people from all over the world, different ages, backgrounds, whatsoever, and then get to actually fight with you along your way and the questions, and who have the same like-minded behavior or interest. So that is a very unique opportunity to get feedback from other people, because everyone more or less commits to the same openness, but also to being polite and giving feedback in a manner that I appreciated a lot. Maybe that comes from an area where I've worked from, where everyone puts out the elbows a lot. And so this was very surprising to me that people can, give feedback in a very nice manner as well. But the openness helps you to reflect. Maybe it's even an advantage that you know each other and that you're not that close to each other, because then that drives also to share your inner self even more. Maybe that's it. But that surprised me a lot, and I took a lot from my business life, but also like my personal vision or mission statement is much clearer now for me. And I know what to do and to sacrifice in 2020 due to the fact that I had so many, now I even would call them friends on my side who worked with me along the way. Oh, and I popcorn to Tripti.
Thanks, Chrissy. For me, the most challenging thing has been few of the exercises that maybe I kind of took them to the heart, and then really like why I sometimes even felt like I'm almost at the beginning of where I started this month. And that has been really challenging as well as frustrating. But despite the fact, and I have to add on to what Roxy and Chrissy just said, the people that you work with, because all of us are so much in finding our own answers, we understand each other's position. And to get the outside in perspectives from people who do not have the filters that you have because of X, Y, Z, when we apply to a situation, we already know. So they give you some ideas about the same very situation in such a different way. Then you think about, oh my God, why didn't you think first? It's so simple and so profound and so easy. So that has been challenging, but also very pleasantly surprised. The ability to open up in a safe space, in a progressive space also. This has been interesting and rewarding as well. Yep. Jonathan, popcorn to you.
Thanks, Tripti. And thank you guys. That was, fantastic. Those words are, I think, true to the heart, and we couldn't have said any of that better ourselves. And so there are a couple questions in the chat I'm gonna address. I think one is around different time zones and the workshops. And so, the way we work it is, we generally have on Sundays and Thursdays are the live sessions, and Tuesdays are the open office hours. And the actual exact time of those really depends on the cohort. So we actually got everybody who is signed up, we've got time zones, and we arranged accordingly to fit where we could really make it work. And for those who didn't, in some cases, we actually ran 2 of the same session to fit another time zone. And also everything is recorded and available online 24/7. And so, we're adaptive, right? This isn't a very rigid, we've got a time where we try to make it work for as many people as possible. And for some, maybe in Bali or Australia, like Michael, there's some early mornings occasionally, or, in San Francisco or LA, maybe in early morning or late night. But I actually think on a whole, we did quite a good job of balancing it out. And then if some people had an engagement, they would miss it, and we'd upload the recorded session right afterwards and they could watch it. So that's a bit about how we design the timing of the workshops. I think there was a couple other questions there. Michael, did you see one that's about you?
Yeah, there were a couple from a couple names that we recognize from people who are familiar with Unsettled. So the Lifestyle Incubator is definitely unique from our in-person retreats. And so there's a completely different series of workshops. And while, you'll see some parallels, we'll do, 1 or 2 similar ones. In person is that we also do on the virtual retreat and the Lifestyle Incubator. For the most part, the entire, structure from A to Z is different, and how we come together, and the programming and the workshops and the conversations we have are truly different. And then I would encourage, you two, Alina and Chelsea, to follow up maybe with Taylor to ask more specific questions about if you're going on an experience and doing this at the same time. Do people stay in touch afterwards? Yeah, that's a great question. So first and foremost, we hope so. You can tell our alumni here, yeah, I'm already seeing some yeses from them. You can see they're familiar with each other, very comfortable with each other on this call. We leave, all the platforms, all the messaging open to continue to stay in touch. Have seen plans for people to stay in touch and even some in-person meetups. And so I think maybe Tripty's already typing in there, but if you guys want to add some flavor to that, I certainly can predict that is happening. And I think it's fair to say that the community is a strong community. And that's also your choice. If you want to step into that and you instigate some of that staying in touch, people will follow through as you do that. John, you want to dive into another question or two?
Yeah, well, so from Melindy, I think it's a really good one around, what do people come out with at the end of the program? And it's a really great question because it is a very personal thing, right? I think as any of our alumni, Roxana, Tripty, Chrissy will say, everybody came in with sort of different goals, different ideas, different challenges, different points in life. And, the collective purpose is these are tools and frameworks. These are exercises and conversations. They are meant to give you clarity around working through certain issues, around how to resolve some of those core tensions that you're looking at between your career and your lifestyle, how to deeper understand your values to make the decisions. We don't make the decisions for you. We don't say this is the answer, but we provide the process and framework. And so I'd love to hear, Chrissy, Roxana, Tripty, any one of you want to share, what do you come out with, or what did you experience, or what did you see other people coming out with, just to speak to that question.
I think I saw Tripty's hand.
I can pick it up. So for me, as I said, I was already undergoing a process. So there was this ambition, but I didn't know how to do it. So before even signing up, I had to manage my own expectations. Okay, Tripty, even if you don't do anything, how do I even justify? Because with my 12 hours of work schedule, how do I justify putting in this much time? There I had again to say, okay, I would learn something, but I have to say, and I came up with a very different approach. Like I need clarity, I need this and that, and really clear direction. What I have come up with personally for me, because my ambition was lifestyle focused, I have got steps to get there. I have a clarity, what choice do I make today, which will lead me there, when and how. And not just the big answers, but also I have the processes and frameworks and the tools. I feel that I've just scratched the surface. I need to look at it again and go further deep dive to get into the nitty gritties, to do the micro actions, to do the baby steps, to further crystallize them. So for me, overall, the plan is lifestyle focused, and I think I feel in a better space. Chrissy, anything to add there?
Yeah, I think it depends a lot on yourself. How deep you work actually with the exercises, depending the outcome. I focused a lot on work, but found out that a lot of what I do for a living and the passion that I drive in all the freelance work that I do in several organizations could fit even better. And I reshift my lifestyle more now on social entrepreneurship, what I always wanted to do. And the other fact is you gain a lot of clarity depending on how open you are to yourself and among the exercises with each other. So at least from my point of view, I've worked quite hard and I went through different topics, not only in the group, but in one-on-one chats or even calls. And I spoke with those who were very interested in giving me feedback. So to me, the outcome was generally that there are so many different areas you're going to talk about and to work with Lala, John, and Michael, that you will be surprised that it's maybe, if it's career focused in the beginning, that you gain a lot of new values and clarity in terms of knowledge about yourself if you let it happen.
Yeah, I would only add to that. I think the general structure of it is certainly lifestyle oriented in that you look, again, it's a very holistic approach to how you look at your life and how you structure it, and you make a lot of choices in how you spend your time and your future, etc. And I think that it's a matter of in what area you choose to focus on. And then so the exercise are really, I think they're really adaptable in the sense that you get to sort of hone in on the areas that you personally want to work on. And then you realize that there are people in the group who are also asking themselves similar questions. And then naturally you end up seeking that peer advice from those who are focused a little more on their careers, whereas there are others who might be focused more on family, on people, on making big physical moves. So it's pretty diverse, and I think the output of the program really is a product of whatever challenge or topic you personally are bringing in to the incubator.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thank you.
Thank you guys. Go ahead, Michael.
I was just gonna say, I think we can probably wrap up a couple final questions into one. You know, how is this different than what else is out there? What topics? You know, we can tease at a bit of both of these, and just to build off of what we were already saying there. You know, one way we're different, and what we were just talking about, is we don't promise anybody an outcome. You know, we're not going to sit here and tell you that even a plan, you're not going to walk away with this, with the exact plan to get exactly where you need to be 3 years from now. We don't really believe in clear outcomes. We believe in processes. And so really what we can promise here is time and space for you to process hard questions, you know, values driven questions, questions that make you think about your trajectory. Is it even the right trajectory you're on before you're trying to set a destination with it? And we really build off of that, grounding, that foundation of where you at today, along your path. You know, what are your values, and how is that going to shape where you might end up, without setting clear destinations for yourself? And so we're not here to promise anybody any career, any particular lifestyle. We're here to work through it with you. And just like Unsettled was founded on that original question, we really drive through a process with questions. Jonathan, you want to add up to those and maybe take it away from there?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think so. With that, and I think answering Melinda's second question here is, you know, one basic very exercise to reference. So, you know, one of the first things we do is a reflective assessment of where you've been so far and how you got here. You know, we call it a journey, and it's a way of looking at how to this point now. What decisions have you made to get to this point? What have been the impact of those decisions, and what are the expectations and influences of those decisions? We use a lot of sailing terminology because obviously we were founded in a sailing trip, and the principles of navigation apply very, very deeply to how we navigate our lives. And so we do look at a lot of the exercises and workshops that we do apply principles of navigation, you know, true north and magnetic north, dead reckoning, which is understanding where you are based on where you've been, without knowing exactly where you're going. You know, there's a lot of things that we play with around that. We move more. So the first part is really around reflection, right? Understanding that journey and deep understanding of values, and what is core to you, right? And the frameworks that we use. The second is really, how do you take that and ground that in, you know, some of the core tensions that I think come up when you start to actually design and structure out that career and that lifestyle. So, you know, another example is looking really deeply at why we work, right? It seems like a simple question, but when you think about why you work and the process behind how you work, there's a lot of interesting things that are revealed in the trends when you look back at your past 5 or 10 or 15 jobs, and how those things have actually tied together in ways that you didn't see before. So again, it's taking a lens and saying, maybe you know what your past 10 jobs are, but have you actually looked and said, what have I really enjoyed about them? What are the processes that are consistent among all of them that create a new thread and a new narrative, that actually is something that you enjoy? Because we've all had careers that we love, that we don't like, things that we enjoy about it, things that we don't. I think, Roxana, your example of you enjoy the work, but you know, there's something about who you were doing it for that didn't resonate, and seeing the trends in that. You know, so those are a couple examples. The third section is really how do you start to take micro steps and plan accountability and begin to move that forward into action. So how do you take what you've learned about yourself, your path, your narrative, what you've found as you started to design and develop that career and that lifestyle, and be looking at pieces moving forward, and then how do you start to structure that, articulate that, and plan in that. And everybody's plan is a little bit different, right? I think as everybody said, it's quite flexible in terms of how you use these tools, but it's the process that really gets you to the outcome that you're looking for. So I don't know if there's anything that you guys wanted to add on that, personal experiences or anything else.
I will only add that specific exercise, which is called, Melindy, the process statement. So you basically look at your previous professional jobs and sort of extract maybe the company, the industry, and everything, and you just you elevate the things that you actually enjoyed the most and where you thrive and where you want to focus on in the future. And when you end up extrapolating it in these more general terms and with other people sort of helping you articulate it, you realize that, at least in my case, I was looking at future opportunities in a very limited way, like applying to similar companies or similar roles, because I figured out that what I've done isn't really applicable elsewhere. And it's just opened up a pretty wide set of more options now, because I'm just looking at it in a very different lens and realizing that my skills are transferable in many more contexts than I actually realized before. For me, that was a big, a really important exercise during the.
Yeah. Thanks, Roxanne. Yeah, and I think the fun thing is we're evolving. I mean, what we did this time, we're going to try different things next time. I mean, this is something where it's really responsive based on what people are looking for. So we came into this first program with a very clear design structure. We changed it as we went along based off of the things that people were interested in, were driving towards, were finding challenging, were finding really helpful. And so, you know, how is this different? Again, that question of how are we different? We didn't just create a program and say, this is it, go into the world and have fun. We're actively adapting and iterating. And so I think there will be some changes from this one to the next one and from the next one onwards, both based off of what was most useful and based off of what the group is looking for, right? It's a community. And so we don't put things out there if we don't think it's going to be valuable for a specific set of people. It's how we run our experiences. It's how we run these retreats. So it's part of our design philosophy to kind of be adaptive and adjust as we go. So I know we only have a couple more minutes. You know, I think if there's any last questions, throw them in the chat. I'm going to popcorn one to our alumni, which is a very simple one, which is, you know, we asked the question of what next, right? That's kind of the basis of a lot of Unsettled experiences, and this retreat and this lifestyle incubator is, you know, how do we figure out what's next? So for you three, what's next? where are you going after this? What is happening? What is changing? What does the next year look like for you? I'll popcorn to Chrissy first, because why not?
So next goal is vacation very soon. I'm counting the days. What I didn't figure out is I'm an international tax consultant, and I chose to do a virtual retreat while we have, you know, like tax closing season. So that's why I look like a panda and I feel like a panda. But so holiday season is coming up on Monday, and I will definitely go to a retreat. I haven't figured out either if it's sailing in Greece or if it's a retreat in Italy, very close to my home. So yeah, that's next for me. I decided to plan much more vacation for 2020. And the other thing I'm really thankful for is the clarity for myself, at least, of not growing my company more, at least not for the next couple of years. So that helped me a lot to focus on stabilizing my companies and reshifting the different businesses that I'm running right now more to social entrepreneurship, which I found out in the last month is my personal passion that I want to drive. And yeah, I popcorn to Roxy.
Thanks, Chrissy. I'm quitting in January. So that's, for me, that's what's next. I have no idea what's going to happen after. But at least I know that I'm going to have, I have some idea of how I'm going to be focusing my time to select my next professional opportunity. But yeah, that's the big next for me. Tripty,
anything to add?
Yep. Roxy, congrats on the big quick Q. Yeah. Too many bigs for you. Anyways, for me, what's next? Actually, I've already put them in motion. I had a talk today at work and I was very clear. If you want me in this role, this is what I want, A, B, C. And I'm so clear, and this was non-negotiable for me. And that's coming out also from my, what I want to do, how I want it to do, and what's the process looks like. So that was interesting. I would not have had that conversation. Looking forward to the vacation, looking forward to crystallizing my plans, the plan that I chose, and putting in intentional steps there. And I look forward to connecting with a lot of my unsettled peers. We are meeting in person over the course of next few months as well. And also we are connecting on a bi-weekly basis to recalibrate where we are, how do we do it, and what's going on. So that's been put in motion. So I think I'm very clear about my next steps, and that's it.
That's awesome. Before I hand it back off to John to officially close us out, I just want to thank our alumni for joining us. Thank you, everybody else, for taking time out of your morning, your day, your evening, from all over the world, for coming here. And my final thought here is a couple of things. One, we started with the founding of Unsettled, and we really, I hope, showed that we lead through questions, and we love questions because they open you to possibility. And I think you see our team, our alumni, we're really just kind of open, everyday people, but we're thoughtful. And if you're asking yourself what's next, and you want to do that in a thoughtful, pure, co-facilitated environment, that's what this is. It's a way to process thoughtfully about what's coming next. And I can't think of anything more important to do for myself, and I hope our alumni would agree, to sit down and give yourself that time and space to be thoughtful around what comes next. Is one of the most important, I think, gifts we can make to ourselves. So if that's interested to you, you can go back to our website, find out how to follow up. I'll drop in Taylor, who was with us, an email address to get straight in touch with her. You can email her anytime about further questions and follow up there. Otherwise, that's everything from me. Jonathan, take us home.
Yes, thank you guys. And I mean, Roxy, Tripty, Chrissy, thank you guys so much. You've spent the past month looking at our faces and chatting over video. And I feel like I know you guys so well already. And thanks for going the extra mile and joining us today, even after the course. So I really appreciate that. And everybody here, thank you for showing up. I think, as Tripty said earlier, like, it takes something just to show up on a call and chat with people. And we really, we're here for questions, here to help you out. And I hope this was fun. This is super fun for us. We always love talking about what we do and sharing it with others. So with that, I wish I had like a bell to close. I'll just do like a little tip there. Have a great rest of your day and evening, and be in touch with us. If you email community@beunsettled.co, you will get a little special gift for joining this. So ask about that. And yeah, have a beautiful rest of your day, everybody. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.